right, as promised to the internets, this is my commentated slash strategy guide to Super R-Type, a game that I think deserves a lot more love than it gets. It is not without its flaws, especially if you're going to attempt this 2 all, starting with the hard and then moving on to the special pro difficulty. You can't actually unlock the pro difficulty in the menu. You actually have to clear hard, and then it just goes right into it. You can't even select it. If you're going to try to do that, this game does have some flaws. However, if you're just going to go for, I would honestly say, even a hard clear, it's not as bad and janky as it might seem at first glance. But we will get into that later. What I want to make clear here is that we're fixing this game by overclocking it and removing all of the slowdown. When Irem originally released this game for hardware back in the 90s, it was just plagued with slowdown. And it's probably got slowdown for God, like just looking through playthroughs, like maybe like 70% of this game is slowing down. It's inconsistent slowdown, which can be super janky. But in the year of our Lord 2025, you can fix this game and breathe new life into it. And I want to emphasize, I think this is a great game. I would love to see more people play it. I kind of promised myself that I would do this commentary, when I was struggling. I've spent over 100 hours playing this game, and I promised myself I would make this commentary. I've never done one of these before because I want to give it some love, man. I don't just want to hit it and quit it. I want to be in a long-term relationship with this game and take it out and just wine and dine it and give it the love it deserves. So to get started here, I want to show you how to actually overclock it using RetroArch. A lot of people are kind of intimidated by RetroArch, or they don't have the time to get into the weeds. I am one of those people that loves RetroArch. Now, it has taken me a considerable number of hours to truly grasp all of its features, all it has to offer. But man, guys, if you are a retro gamer, if you are a shmup player, please give it a chance. Look up tutorials. Maybe I'll even do some just quick tutorials myself just to show you some of the basics. But man, this thing is just so freaking cool. Honestly, with RetroArch, you can add quality of life features to games that, here's my hot take, are often better to or equal than a lot of the M2 ports. Having said that, obviously, you can't, you're not going to be able to add things like widgets and, stuff that like shows rank. But in terms of performance, in terms of reducing input lag, in terms of customizing your control, save states, all these bells and whistles, so freaking good. Please learn to use RetroArch. It's just so cool. All right. So let's say you want to remove the slowdown, and not just necessarily Super R-Type, but in any Super Nintendo game, right? I'm going to do this using the SNES 9X core. That kind of is a big conversation in its own video. There are lots of Super Nintendo cores you can use with RetroArch. Some are more for accuracy, some are more for performance. I think the SNES 9X is more performance-based. It's more balanced, which I like. So anyway, what you're going to do is just boot up your ROM. And then once you've done that, it's just a matter of you go into your main menu and then your quick menu, which is sort of like a sub-menu that gives you lots of options for the particular game you're playing. Head on down. Where the hell is it? Oh, God. Core options. Here we go. And then we're going to go down to emulation hacks. We're going to be elite hacksaws today. Not really. Okay, so Super FX clocking. You have plenty of options here. Pretty much if you're overclocking, I think you're just going to go like all the way. But you do have options. You can do compatible, you can do light. So if, for example, you're trying to play a game that it's really, really janky, and you do max overclocking, and it breaks the game. You can try light and compatible. Um, and this is good to know for a game like Gradius 3, for example. With Gradius 3, it truly seems like they designed the game knowing that they would face slowdown. So if you do this max setting on Gradius 3, it's great. It's so much better for 80 to 90% of the game. But like there are these parts where like some popcorn enemies or boss shooting patterns are so fast that it's like it's like comically fast. Like it's clearly not designed to be played that way. Versus with Super R-Type, it really breathes this fresh life into this game. Like, it's clear that this is the way the game was meant to be played. So please give it a try. Another important feature here is the reduced flickering. And this is really cool too. Like, you don't necessarily, for Super Nintendo games in general, let's say the speed is fine, but it's got flickering. This is another really cool option you can use. And that's kind of all I really mess with here. So again, you can patch a ROM to do the SA1 hack, which will have this overclocking built into it, which is what you're going to have to do if you want to play on original hardware if you're using a flash card. But to me, this is even easier if you just want to do it on a PC, which I'm so sorry, but I totally am one of those PC master race people. PC is just so cool. It's so deep. It's so customizable. I will never look down on anybody that loves the plug and play aspect of console gaming, especially if you are a person with limited time. I 1,000,000% respect that, especially if you have like kids or something. Like, you don't want to get into the weeds like this, but if you can get into the weeds, please get into the weeds. Get a weed whacker. It's so freaking cool. Okay, so, oh god, I'm rambling so much, but I'm just gonna ramble. We're just gonna go with it. So, let's get into the actual game here. So when I beat this game, I kind of did it in steps. So the first thing I did was I got to clear up the hard loop. Then I isolated the pro loop by itself, and then I did the 2-all. So I did it in chunks like that, which made it psychologically easier to get these little wins along the way. It took me about 64 hours to get the first hard loop. It took me, I want to say, about 85 hours to get the pro loop. And then I think I hit around, because I experimented with the SA1 hack in addition to overclocking. They feel pretty much the same. But it took me around the 130 hour mark to finally get the 2-all back to back. Because, you can see here 45 minutes is a long time to play a difficult shmup without making any mistakes. So yeah, let's get into it here. Why am I not hearing things? I don't like that. Ah, fuck. Okay, let's just try that again here. 2-all, there we go. So I guess there's not a ton to talk about in the first level, so let's talk about some of the not so great parts of this game, because they are there, and that of course is the checkpoint system. Having said that, I will say that there are 7 levels in this game, and assuming you're going for a 1-all, I personally have recovered, obviously from the first level you start with nothing anyway. So yeah, when you die in this game, it makes you go all the way back to the beginning of a level, even if it's on the boss, which is pretty gnarly. But I'm gonna have a hot take here, if you will. I think that there's actually somewhat of a benefit to that, because if you're playing a normal R-Type game, and let's say you die in a level, there's like what, maybe 2 to 4 checkpoints. I don't really know. I don't really bother with checkpoints in R-Type games. But that's 2 to 4 alternate routes that you're going to have to learn, and you're really going to have to grind them, because starting from nothing in these games can be very intense. However, in this game, there's only 7 checkpoints. The beginning of a level is itself a checkpoint. So if nothing else, even though, yeah, it's annoying and you have to do the whole level again, if there is a level that's really making you struggle, you can at least have less checkpoints that you need to learn. You just kind of get a do-over for the level. So I don't necessarily think that's the worst thing in the world. As I said earlier, there are 7 levels to this game, and I believe that if you die on the first 4 of those levels, I personally am pretty sure have been able to recover on all of them. I'm not sure if I've done it on 4, just because 4 is honestly such an easy level once you know it that I pretty much never die there. And I think you could probably manage it on 5 as well. Having said that, if you die on level 6 and 7, it is all over, which we'll get to later. So, yeah, I'm going to pause it here because I want to ramble more. So that's my thoughts on the checkpoint. Like, they're tough, but they also are consistent. So, yeah, it sucks to do the whole level again, but better to have one... like, if you're dying on level 3, better to just have a fresh start than to have to learn 2 to 3 parts. But the thing about R-Type and Gradius is that, you know, these games are memorizers, right? These games are not like bullet hells where, like, the analogy that I always use is when you're playing a bullet hell, it's like jazz where you're improvising, and there's this kind of feeling that you always have a fighting chance because you have bombs to cover your mistakes. You have just more things you can do with dodging, like you don't have to worry about ramming into walls and stuff. Whereas these horizontal Gradius and R-Type games are really more like classical music, where you learn it a certain way and there's like a little bit of variance that you'll do and you'll have to do if you get off your route accidentally, but it's basically much more static. And the joy from this game is less about winging it and seeing if you can scrape by and beat that last boss with no bombs in your stock than it is about, these are really games that are meant to be mastered. Now, I know that sounds like, dude, that's really freaking hard, and I don't want to spend the time doing that, but the difficulty curve functions in a way that even though the difficulty starts at a much higher place in the first 2 levels of, say, a cave game, I don't think it ever reaches that height. So I feel like there's a lot of horizontal shooters that I've played. For example, with the first R-Type, it only took me about 16 hours when I got that. And I've beaten bullet hells that have taken me 16 hours. The experience, however, psychologically is very different. Where if you die midway through an R-Type game, like, that's it. You know it's over. You know you haven't memorized a certain checkpoint, and you just have to suck it up and restart it. You might feel with a bullet hell game that the win is right around the corner, but it's not. You know, it's going to take you, say, 15 hours to do it. So there's the feeling of always having a fighting chance with a bullet hell versus with a horizontal shooter. But what you find if you look at the total time it takes you to complete these games is that even though it feels more frustrating to complete a horizontal shooter, it's just different. Meaning you're going to have to master and know the game inside and out, yes, but I don't think fundamentally the things that you have to execute are as difficult. Like, Dodonpachi took me 112 hours, okay? This one took me 130 hours, yes, but I mean, that's comparable time. So, yeah, give horizontal shooters a chance. That is my ramble on that. Now, let's go back a little bit. I want to talk about this first boss. He's kind of a jerk, so I'm just going to start it here. Let's talk strategy. So right off the bat, what you're going to do is just move straight, and as soon as you are on top of this blue planet here, you start a charge shot. Like so. this boss's name is Illuminator, and he'll do one of two things. He will, so this is the hard loop. I forgot to start it on the pro loop, but that's fine. On the hard loop, he's always just going to move, like, you get your first fully charged shot here, and then he's going to move down and you get your second one. So that just looks like this. Easy peasy. Now, he's a jerk when you fight him on the second loop. So let's just get a little bit back here. On the second loop, this motherfucker likes to sometimes move counterclockwise, which just feels a lot harder. So same thing, you start off, you go over here, you immediately start to charge your shot, and you kind of get that first one. The hitboxes in this game, I will admit, can be a bit janky at sometimes. I practiced a couple of strategies with this thing. For example, this boss's name is Illuminator. If you shoot off all of these like little guns here, this wall is actually safe. So even if he moves over to this side of the screen, you will be safe if all of his guns are off. If they're not off, unfortunately, he will collide with you and kill you. So really, your approach is going to be to try to get 2 fully charged shots into his eye here. To make matters somewhat worse, when you fully charge your shot, it'll fill up all the way once, and then it'll fill up all the way again and be orange, and it'll go wow, 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 and it'll like blink for a couple of seconds, and then it goes away. So you actually have a small window to line up these charge shots, which is pretty tough when he goes counterclockwise like this. I believe he does his first couple of moves, at least, even if he's going counterclockwise, are consistent. So I did practice it, but it was just so annoying to me that I just kind of stopped practicing it and forgot how to do it. Because even if he killed me, it wasn't a big deal because I could just do the level over again. It's the first level, so you start off underpowered anyway. It's a non-issue. And I would just fight him again and just beat him. Because my goal with this game was not necessarily to get a no-miss. It was just to get the 2 all. So, yeah, you die on the first level of the second loop. It's not game over. You have plenty of lives, and you can just deal with it. So yeah, the bullets are pretty fast on this pro loop here. And ideally, that would have been a charged shot, and that would have been the end of it. But that is just not the way it went down on this run, so I just kind of have to fight him here. These little orbs that move, they don't actually move on the initial hard clear. Yeah, honestly, I gotta say, I kind of feel like the pro loop is just the way this game is meant to be played, man. It's just so hardcore. It adds things that you have to contend with that you just do not have to contend with on the other loops. And yeah, I mean, this is definitely, I will say, this pro loop is unquestionably, at least for me, harder than a basic 1-all of the first game. Like, this is arcade difficulty, no doubt about it. When I do finally kill Illuminator here, I actually don't get it by a charge shot. Right there. So I actually got it because, I guess I have to backtrack a little bit. You do at least start off with missiles if you don't die, and it was my missile that took him out. So thankfully that shortened things a little bit. Let's just rewind here. So if you watch my missile fall out, that's actually, the splash damage of that is actually what's going to kill him, in addition to my shots. Otherwise, I would have just had to keep putzing around with him. And that's actually a good point to mention here. I prefer the blue ground missile way more than I do the red homing missiles. The particular reason for that is for the hardest part of the game in Stage 6, the part I term the conveyor belt of death. I invented a strategy, I have not seen anybody else use it, where I desperately need the blue missiles to make it work. So let's just see that come out here. Boom, gone. Another thing I want to mention too is I want to give a shout out to Brain Temple and Peg. Peg's run is just with the traditional slowdown, and Brain Temple is the only person I can find, other than myself now, that managed to clear this with the slowdown removed. So massive shout out to both of those players. I use strategies from both of their run-throughs. So getting into the second level here, let's check my notes. Yeah, so one of my kind of meta strategies I use when playing a game this difficult is that I like to also play, I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit just for my ears here. I like to pair a shmup with a casual game. So I'll play something like Chrono Trigger or just something like really comfy. So that after a couple runs in a given day, when I'm just like sobbing in a corner and my wife is patting me on the back, not really, but that's kind of how it feels. I like to mix it up with an easier game just to kind of breathe and relax before I have to go into work or something. I paused it here because, oh, not yet. One of these turrets coming up that's on the wall here is kind of a bitch and can kill you if you don't know that it's going to be a little tricky, son of a bitch. Actually, no, I'm going to back it up. It was that one. God, this is going to be like the jankiest commentary ever. I'm so sorry. Okay. Oh, wait, where was it? No, it wasn't this one. It was... God, where's that turret? It'll come up later. I don't care. We'll talk about it later. So I'm not going to commentate on every little thing I'm doing here because a lot of this, like, I think of it in my head as choreography. It's pretty straightforward. I'll try more to point out things where I like kill something off screen. This guy, this is the turret. I was just thinking about it. So this thing almost has like Toaplan style bullets where they're so good at sniping you, where instead of shooting directly towards you, they will shoot in the direction you're going to move toward. So I think the way the programming works is like the first bullet will shoot kind of near you or where you just were, where you're going. And then, of course, the game knows that you're going to, by dodging it, you're going to move the opposite direction. So what it will sometimes do is fire a bullet in that direction, right? So you catch a bullet with your pod here, you dodged it, you feel like a boss, and you're backing away from it, and then it says, nope, and it'll shoot one behind you. It's so mean. I feel like that was something I had to deal a lot when I was playing Fireshark, the Genesis port. So I'm very cautious when I take out this turret. And I'm just very aware, you know, you really want to stay, like if the turret's here, you want to kind of stay behind it and go up. You don't want to move forward and then move backward. That is a recipe for disaster. Yeah, this level is actually the first level if you're playing the arcade version of R-Type 2. So this game, it's kind of R-Type 2, kind of not. It uses a lot of set pieces, like this one, and assets from the arcade port, but I think like half the levels are actually completely original. I think Brain Temple said that she sort of thinks of it as like a rearrange, which I think is kind of a cool way to view it. So yeah. Okay, that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about with those like sneaky bullets. So pay attention to this Zako here, right? Okay, first one, it's kind of, he shoots towards you, and then he'll shoot it, like, away from you. So it's like, they'll shoot it on one side of you, and then they'll shoot it on the other side. Because it's like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, it's like a feel thing, but it does a good job at predicting where you're going to be, and it's just, oh, it's so frustrating. Alright, I'm going to pause this here really quick. So the second boss is apparently named Zaptom, I don't know, that's just what the wiki calls it. But it's the Xenomorph. Like, we all know it's the Xenomorph. When you see it. It actually has armor in this one, so you can only see it if you shoot its face off here. So, I actually found a safe spot that I have not... Again, I'm not saying it's not out there. I just wasn't able to find anybody else that did that. I discovered it independently. So what you're going to do to just completely avoid having to fight this boss is just put your force pod on the back here, and then you're just going to get balls deep. You're going to clip in And you can do like some crazy clip. Like, look at that. You can do some crazy clipping in this game, which is always kind of frustrating because it's like you're gonna get you like I feel like when you do things like that in a shmup, when you have deep knowledge of it and you do clipping or something, you'll get these comments and somebody's just gonna be talking shit like you hit the wall there and that therefore you're cheating because people don't understand how hitboxes work. Although I will say this one is like pretty egregious. Like it's crazy that you can actually get that deep. Um, but yeah, the important thing is that this splash damage again using the downward blue missiles will take out the core that's very briefly exposed here. So I don't have to deal with none of this crap. And I'll just let my missiles just take this out when it's briefly exposed. Boom, done. So let's contrast that. If you don't use that strategy, we'll pull up Brain Temples, what they do here. And it's not bad. It's just, again, when you're playing a 40-minute game, you want to mitigate risk as much as humanly possible. Anything you can do to make your life easier, to not have to dodge something, do it. You know, that is the core gameplay in these horizontal memorizer shmups is like it's almost like a strategy game. It's like Ikaruga. You know, it's all about just optimization and consistency. You know, you're never these games are not about winging it. They're about learning it deeply, and it's much more left brained, but it's cool. All right, so here we go. So he's got the force pod on the front. She's got the force pod on the front, which she's really going to need. And, okay, let's see here. So another point I want to make is the core is only briefly exposed. When I was fighting it this way, just the traditional way, I would actually use a musical cue. If you listen to the music, I was able to time out exactly when the core would be exposed and when my meter would be fully charged to do it so I could get it quickly, which is a cool strategy. A lot of times when you're playing a shmup, people will talk about using static elements that are on here. So it can be like a square like this on the wall. It can be a number like this to perfectly line yourself up. But sometimes you can actually use music if you're trying to time out something like a bomb or a charge shot too. So yeah, I just want to point that out. The reason I really hated fighting this boss, particularly in the second loop, in addition to having to dodge all of these white things, what shoots out of the eye here is like this crazy random pattern. It is not static, it is random, which randomness is so scary in a game like this because you can't perfectly route it. You just have to react to it. So you've got all this crap just going around and you have to perfectly hit it with a charge shot. And I did have some runs in the second loop where that killed me. So that's why I just said nah. And I figured out how to do that 100% safe spot. So safe spots are a beautiful thing when they are available. I almost don't want to talk as much on this stage because I just love the soundtrack. It's so just melancholy and beautiful. But I'll talk about it. So one thing about those little submarine guys, when you shoot them, they will erratically, like, if they're here and you shoot it, it'll zoom really quickly in whatever direction it's going. So you're just gonna, so just match my positioning here and you just don't even need to deal with that at all. These waterfalls can be very deadly, obviously because they'll push you down or in some cases up into the stage. So you want to destroy these by putting your pod actually on them in addition to point blanking them. And then yeah, it's I'd have to pause this so much to talk about the choreography here. Just match it. That's all I can really say. The reason I'm camping in this corner here is because I don't know what the hell they're all. I'm just going to call them albino caterpillars. That's what they look to me. They will crawl out and snipe you. So there's a couple here that if you have your, I forget what this is called. I'm just going to call it your option. If you have it camping right there, it'll kill it. So let's take a look at that. So boom, dead before it even comes on the screen. That's what we want. This is where the game really starts taking its gloves off, and you really gotta, you really have to practice this section. I think I did. There was a day where I spent a good hour, hour and a half just looping this part. So I will at least try to explain what I'm doing with some of my timing here. So the first step obviously was to use your option to take off that one so it can't snipe you and you're safe-ish hanging back. You're going to kill this guy as you swoop down, and there's two up on the ceiling here. Let's see if I can get them in frame here. There's going to be two. Yep, there's the first one. And then I wait for a second one, and then I think, yeah, third one. Then I go down. By doing it the same way every time like that, like using a cue, that will at least give me some consistency for the behavior of this game. Because there's so much going out on screen. It's not necessarily that I've memorized what, like, every little thing that's shooting out of the ground, every trajectory of this bullet. I just do it the same at the same time and just practice it so my muscle memory absorbs it. And I don't necessarily have to memorize things as strictly as it looks because I practice it using that same cue every time. Yeah, you want to take these eggs out really quick, or these spawners, whatever the heck they are. I don't know what anything is called in this game. Because if you don't, crabs will come out, and they move like really erratically on the screen, and they will bump into you and kill you. Because we're on the pro loop, everything is very spongy. So things that kind of evaporate on the hard or the normal loop are much more threatening when you're playing on this like arcade hard pro loop. Talking a little bit about the choreography here. I'm going to shoot there's another albino caterpillar that comes from the ceiling here. So when it's safe, I'm going to get up here and connect my force pod there and use the same strategy of using my upper option to kill it before it can come on screen and snipe me. Got him. And then from here, it's just a matter of everything's in front of me. I'm just killing everything in front of me. I'm being careful. I wiggle a little bit because I think they'll fall off the ceiling if you're moving more or something. That seems to be how they behave. Easy peasy. And then I just point blank this guy to take him out as quickly as possible. Get that. And yeah, I'm just being mindful of those bullets behind me, and that's it. That's the third level done. Alright. I gotta show Brainlord's approach to that like little mid big boss right there. Cause wow. Just like so much more skillful than me, but so unnecessary. Like, I just gotta play it. Like, when I saw that, I was just like, dude, like, I'm in awe, but I don't understand. Like, I gotta get to it. Because it just looked so dangerous to me. I don't know. Brainlord is just a braver player than me. But let's just, like, watch this madness. So, okay, takes out the egg a little bit sooner, but then has to dodge so much more, switches the pod. Like, don't get me wrong, I am in awe, but good God, that looks harder. Like, I am all about mitigating risk in my playthroughs. God, where am I? And, yeah, so, back this up a little bit here. Just point blank it. Just keep it simple, you know? You do not have to be... I'm going to be honest, I really consider myself an intermediate player, but I'm dedicated, and I route things out that makes it easy for me. I don't try to do pyrotechnical inputs like that, because I can't. Or if I could, it would take me twice as long to learn a game like this. So, just a little caveat there. That's why I want to make another point, like, if you feel insecure about uploading your playthroughs, don't. Because by giving the internet a large pool of playthroughs for a given game, what you allow players like myself and yourself to do is get your strategies a la carte, right? So you're not just following one crazy playthrough like Brainlord there, where it's like a player is so skilled, there's sections that you just can't do, or at least you can't do them practically without adding another 10 hours or whatever to your playthrough. You know, by having a more intermediate, not as good player like myself upload a playthrough, you can say, okay, that part is really hard. I like what Brain Temple, I think I said Brain Lord, excuse me, what Brain Temple is doing. You know, you can make things so much easier for yourself by finding a lesser skilled player and stealing their strategy. You know, you mix and match. You don't have to follow just one playthrough. Okay, I got to talk about this a little bit. Um, First, let's go back and watch Brain Temple. God damn it, let's watch Brain Temple take out the third boss using their strategy. Now, because Brain Temple uses the red homing missiles, they approach this boss a little bit differently than I have to do. So they start up here, get that charge shot perfectly timed, wait for it, and boom. You have to do it twice on this version. Boom, get it again. Very safe strategy, pretty easy to execute, but still can be done easier. Because I'm lazy and I'm easy. I like making things as scrubby as possible for myself. So the reason that I camp up here too is because if I start here with my blue missiles and I'm moving back to line up that shot to this weak little eye or whatever it is that pops out, what would happen sometimes is my blue missile would hit, and because it travels downwards, it would make that eyeball hide, and my timing would be all screwed up. Now, the eye will pop out 3 times, so you do get another chance to do it, but I would occasionally die if I accidentally damaged it with my missile instead of my charge shot and made the eye disappear too quickly. So what I do is start up here, and then as soon as that head covers it, so as soon as the snake head is covering that missile, I start charging up right then, and it's perfectly timed that I can go in and get that initial fully charged shot. Oh, why did I just mute it? God damn it. Got it. On the pro loop, on the hard loop, you only have to get 1 fully charged shot. You have to do 2 charge shots, like I just did, on this more difficult loop. What I want to talk about in this section is Hall effect keyboards, because there's not a ton to talk about here. There is some to talk about, though, so I am going to rewind it. Oh, god damn it. What you have to look out for here are these thrusters. In general, throughout this battleship, you want to hang to the middle of the screen or further back, because these things, as soon as you get in their line of fire, like maybe just before they come on screen, it's faster than you can react, and they'll have this like jet effect come out and just kill you before you can even respond. It's kind of cheap, but again, it's just a memorizer thing of like, once you know it's there the first time, it'll never kill you again. Like, I kind of like this level because it is so easy. It kind of gives me a breather between the more difficult level 3, where it starts to amp up, and then the second half of the game where things get even more difficult. But yeah, so when I was learning this game, I'm obsessed with trying to get precise physical inputs. So I have used an LS40 lever. I've got another stick where I have an LS56 lever. I, of course, like everybody, I love the M30 8-bit do D-pad that feels like that Sega Saturn D-pad. And I even sometimes will use my clicky Xbox Series 1 D-pad. Sometimes I kind of like it. Alright, I gotta back up really quick though. God, I should really just make a separate video where I ramble about all these topics. I don't care. This is how I'm doing it. the reason I kind of dribbled my force pod here is because there's a little guy with a power up that has a red missile, and again, it's critical that I do not collect a red missile at all. Well, at least before stage 6 during this playthrough, because if I do, it's effectively like dying for me because I have to have it for the stage 6 conveyor of death. So what I do is just kind of bounce it into the wall here, kills it off screen, and then as the screen goes to the right, it's well out of my way and I don't have to worry about picking it up. Okay. I have come to believe that a keyboard is technically, I want to make this clear, it is technically the most powerful and efficient way that you can play any video game. Now, I know there's some people that are just like, nah, I love my arcade stick. It's authentic. When you go to an arcade, you have levers. And I respect that. I get it. And there are people that that have accomplished amazing things using every input. The biggest example in my mind that I think of is Gus, a super player who got like the first counterstop of Mushi Futari Ultimate or whatever it is, used the 360 D-pad, which, I'm sorry, to me that is like an objectively garbage D-pad. It's so mushy, it's so unresponsive, and yet he got one of the best clears you can ever hope to get. So again, you can use whatever you want to use. You can use what's most comfortable. The specs of a Hall Effect keyboard, however, are pretty much fantastic. So for starters, you get 8K polling. So it's 8,000 hertz, which I believe technically that means every second, in theory, it can register 8,000 button presses. Most keyboards and video game controllers are actually going to fall within 500 to 1,000 hertz. So that right there is just like way more registering of your input. Now, that only there's going to be some people rolling their eyes at that because that only translates to a couple like fractions of like a millisecond, right? A couple of frames at most. So it's negligible on its own. But here's the thing about input lag. Okay, it might not matter if you're only using a 1,000 hertz versus an 8,000 hertz polling method, right? Sure, doesn't matter. It might not matter if your display is only a 60 hertz display versus a 240 hertz display. It might not matter if you're using RetroArch with the run ahead feature enabled for a frame or two versus just not using that at all, using a standalone emulator. Now, it does matter if you combine all of those things, in my opinion. So if you get the best controller, I'm playing on an LCD 300 hertz monitor, and I do use run ahead a lot. I actually didn't need it for this game because my input method and my monitor is so good. I just didn't need it. But if you combine all of those nitpicky factors together, it makes for a better experience. So I know I see a lot of people online are like, Hall Effect keyboards are stupid. Nobody needs like that precise input unless you're like a super hardcore pro FPS player. But like if you're playing shmups, you are like by default basically a hardcore player. Like you are, give yourself a pat on the back. These games are 20 minutes long and they take like anywhere, not this one, but like a lot of them take me like, I don't know, 15 to 20 hours to beat, which is that's a lot of time to like clear like a 20-minute loop of a game. So by its nature, it kind of is more hardcore. So I would say it's worth investing in a good monitor that's like at least like 240 hertz. It is worth experimenting with a Hall Effect keyboard, not only because of the high polling rate, but also because they come with this firmware that lets you customize it so that you can get the sensitivity of the buttons. You can actually set the sensitivity to register your actuation. That is when your physical press registers as an input in the game. You can set that to 0.1 millimeters. 0.1 millimeters. not only when it will register, but also as you start to lift your finger off of a key 0.1 millimeters. And I have spent hundreds of hours with levers and with D-pads, and this might not be as critical if you're playing like a cave game, because they have that focus button right where you can get like really small pixel perfect movements. But if you're playing something like this, like it's more old school and you have to collect speed power-ups, if you're playing any teleplant stuff, it's so important to get as precise as you can, that I really think keyboards are just so cool. They're also physically going to be just a little bit faster because you're playing, like I use the arrow keys, right? So you're using 3 fingers to use your inputs instead of just moving your thumb or your wrist around. And again, I know some people are going to roll their eyes and shake their heads at that, but when you add, the physical lag of using your wrist or using your thumb versus how quickly you can move back and forth using 2 fingers, when you add the input lag you can save using an 8,000 polling thing, an 8,000 polling input method, and a super good monitor, it's better. It's just better. And if you are the kind of person that loves playing shmups and you regularly play like 20 to 50 hours into these games, just do it. Just like save up your money and invest in a good setup, my guys. It's so good. So yeah, pretty straightforward here. You're just using your force pod as a shield and just taking everything out. This part is a little bit tricky. I should mention I love using the DNA helixy laser for the whole game, not only because it can clip through stuff really effectively, but because it also has a ton of power. I know some people, like, there's a gray weapon that's kind of rare. You can get it at the beginning of this stage. It only shoots like halfway across the screen, and it does a little bit more damage than the DNA laser, but it's not even worth it in my opinion. I don't even really bother with any other weapons. But this turret is kind of tricky because you cannot clip through to kill it, so you have to shoot your force pod. And okay, easy enough, right? But sometimes if your timing is off, what can happen is it's just shooting and it's just staying stagnant. So when that happens, if you shoot it a little bit too early, if you just don't press anything and wait, the screen will actually push you and your force pod forward so that it'll line up and kill it. Or vice versa, which is more common, if you overshoot it and it's just not killing it fast enough, you can just press the button that you have mapped to bring it back, and as the force pod comes back, it'll just kill it that way. Alternatively, what you can do is just, if you just move really fast, it only shoots from here at like a 90-degree angle. So as long as you're fast and you leave when there's enough screen, you can just like dodge it quickly and just get out of its way. Again, note my positioning. I'm not going right to the edge of the screen because there's some thrusters that will kill you if you do that. And right here, you go ahead and get your second option, or satellite, whatever it's called, and we are now fully powered up. You can kill those little Zaccos behind you. They're just going to appear behind these humps here. But again, I'm a lazy player. I'm a safe player, so I don't bother doing that. I literally just hide behind the humps for a second and just don't worry about them. One less thing to worry about. Another shout out to Brain Temple here for this safe spot that I discovered. To get this perfectly, what you want to do is, you see this gap between this tiny little red part of your ship and this part that juts out. There's like a little gap, and you can just pixel perfect use this green line to line yourself up that to give you the proper vertical alignment to get this safe spot. And again, this was like a test that I would use with various input methods to perfect and really decide on that I really want to use my Hall Effect keyboard as much as possible, because it's just like you can flick switches, and it's harder to do on a D-pad because there's no, it's on or off really when you actually actuate the membrane in your M30 D-pad. And again, if you have a game that has a focus feature, it's not a big deal, right? Your ship is just temporarily slowed down if you're using a focus button, so you can get pixel perfect movements, but not so if you're playing a more old school game like this, where it's on you to get your pixel perfect movements. Um, so I found that I would struggle, and I'd be like, I'll try to do it with my mouse, right? So here's my ship. Pretend this mouse is my ship, and I'm trying to get this right. And I would just be like a little too much, just a little bit off. Even using my LS56, I just didn't have the tactile skill, I'll admit, to get it perfect right away. I could get it with both my M30 and my LS40 and my LS56, but when I used my keyboard, I was always able to get it faster and just easier. And once I got it in, it was just like locked in. Like I was able to get it within like 2 to 4 inputs every time. I could just get this pixel perfect alignment here. So I really want to encourage anybody that's watching this, give Hall Effect keyboards a try. They're like 40 to 70 bucks on Amazon. You don't even have to get like a super expensive one, and they are so worth it. They are so cool. I also used it again. I was playing Deus Ex Invisible War as like my comfort game when I needed a break, and I've always used controllers for FPS, but man, learning to use a keyboard, oh my god, it's so much better. And with the snappiness of this Hall Effect keyboard, it's just, oh my god, it's so cool. Like you can learn a lot from other hardcore gaming communities. Like if you're a person that likes levers, read what the Street Fighter bros have to say about levers. If you're into keyboards, read what first-person shooter guys have to say about keyboards. You don't have to stay in your own community. You can learn a lot from these other niche hardcore gaming scenes. So that was the first part, was aligning the gap with the green part. And then here, yeah, just 3 inputs, I was able to get it. You want the edge of your satellite here to have like 1 pixel of space between you and this orange dot on the screen. It seems kind of extreme, like, oh dude, this is so like OCD pixel perfect. Again, if you have a good reliable input method, you'll have to practice it, a few minutes, but it's not that bad. And once you have it, this boss is just totally safe. So what I would often do, I play in the morning because I work the afternoon shift in healthcare, and I would often use like spots like this to give myself a little coffee break and literally just take my hands completely off the keyboard, stretch out, and yeah, just sip my coffee and, it just keep one finger on the trigger, obviously, and then yeah, have a little coffee break there. God, this video is going to be so long. I'm sorry for rambling. I don't, for the 2 people that are going to watch this all the way through, thank you so much. But yeah, I'm very passionate about these games. They are my hobby. I just love them, and I love rambling about them. So it's so isolating being a shmup player, because you can't talk to anybody about these games in real life. Like I could talk to my coworkers about Expedition 33, which I loved. But I spend so much more time playing shmups, and it's like living on the moon. Like, nobody play. I mean, I get excited when I talk to somebody that even knows about these games. Like my brother-in-law, he knew Life Force from his NES days, because back then they were a little bit more popular, and that's the only person I have encountered in real life who knows what these games are. So I guess it's very cathartic making a video like this, because I get to share all of this data that I've accumulated for just, oh my gosh, I've been playing shmups pretty regularly since 2014. I had a hiatus when I did my internship, but certainly the last like 2 or 3 years when I started this channel, just to kind of collect my digital trophies, right? I've gotten just really into them, and I just find them so rewarding. I'm just gonna pause it really quick. I haven't talked at all about what I'm doing on this stage, because it's pretty straightforward. It's just a monkey see, monkey do kind of stage. As far as when you switch your force pod, when you do this, when you memorize tanks that are going to come on the screen. It's just memo. So here's my advice to you. If you think that these games are too OCD, they're too rigid, they're not fun, it's like you have to understand that when you're a shmup player, sometimes the practice is the fun. Sometimes the optimization is the entertainment. So when I sit down to play an R-type game, I don't sit down with the same mentality that I have when I'm playing a Toho game or an easier cave one-all like Mushihime Sama, where it's like I got the gist of what I'm gonna do. I've played it through organically. Maybe I've looped one stage a couple of times, but I'm basically winging it. I'm using my bombs. When you sit down to play R-Type, you should sit down with the idea of like, today I am going to optimize one level. I'm gonna have my time just getting one level as clean and pretty as I can get it. That's gonna be my gaming session. I have zero intention to get the clear. You have to be patient. The clear is just this reward that you get at the end. That's not the point. Like, there's this great analogy that Alan Watts makes about life, where he says, in life we have these things like maybe you're looking forward to a college degree, maybe you're looking forward to having your first kid, a promotion at work, meeting a new partner, whatever it is. We tend to kind of be that horse chasing the proverbial carrot, right? Where we think that we're going to have this inner state of joy and peace when we get whatever it is, in this case, a 1cc. And while those things are nice, while, these benchmarks, these experiences are good, I encourage you to be a masochist. I encourage you to enjoy the journey and just laugh when you die 35 minutes into a 40-minute run. I encourage you to laugh and smile at the fact that the game is playing this psychological meta game with you. It is seeing which of you is more finite. Is the game with its stagnant programming finite, or is your perseverance bigger than that? Are you going to have the patience to say, I don't care if this takes me 50 hours or 500 hours, which, mind you, some of the top players, like top scoring like Dodonpachi players, will spend 500 to 1,000 hours. Are you the person that's going to do that? What is that journey like? And here's the thing. Some of you are like, holy crap, no, I am never going to be that person. That's insane. But like, those guys couldn't do it if they weren't having fun. If there wasn't some kind of altered state of consciousness where you are just being zen and just basking in the difficulty and the strain and the memorization of what you are trying to accomplish, if you are just letting yourself be hardcore and just dig in and just eat this whale one bite at a time, I'm telling you, there is a joy in it. It's hardcore, and I love it. Going forward, don't get me wrong, I love more casual play too. I love compile shmups. I cut my teeth learning those games. Space Megaforce, I clear at least once a year. I love that game. It scratches my brain. But don't be afraid to just be a bad motherfucker and get a 2-all. I want to give a shout out to the Hidden Fortress as well, because he talks a lot about this mentality. Like, we're on the same wavelength of just like embracing the grind. He got his Katsui clear the day before I got my clear, and I love that. Like, there was something in the air where when I got this clear, I saw like 4 to 6 other clears from my shmup bros popping up, and I commented on all of them. I was so happy to see just other people just being on this journey, And again, it's like, there's like an intimacy to it, because I know the psychological turmoil that they must have had to go through as a shmup player and this niche little gaming community to accomplish what they did. And I love giving people a shout out, like, thriving in the joy of others succeeding. It's so fucking cool, guys. So, yeah, this is just all memo. That's all this is. I just practiced it until I got it. Do want to make a quick point about this point here. I like to, because this is pretty tight, you obviously don't want to be too low so this tank shoots you. That's a bummer. You want to clip with this top part of your ship going into this wall a little bit. And this was a moment too, again, when I decided I really want to be a Hall Effect keyboard player, because when I was using my M30, I was having a really good run. I was playing the Pro Loop. You know, I made it all the way to stage 5 of 7. And yet, when I got to this part here, I didn't have the sensitivity I needed. Because, you know, you can only, like, press those membrane buttons on your D-pad so quickly. If you have a focus button, I'm sorry I'm repeating myself, it's okay, but if you're playing a game like this where you need precision, you need to be able to clip this in a very precise way, the M30 was not cutting it for me. It was certainly easier with micro switches in my levers, because you can flick it really quick, but even then, the tapping is just such, the tapping that you can get from either a good hitbox or a good keyboard is just unmatched. Like, yeah, it can feel weird doing macro movement, I will not lie, I'm still learning, zipping around the screen, but for these like tap precision tap dodging movements, oh my god, hitboxes and keyboards are just tools to be reckoned with. And what actually inspired me to even try a keyboard to begin with was Wes112, another super player who has, I think, multiple Ketsui 2 alls. I gotta try that game, by the way. It's so hardcore that I want to give it a shot eventually. Although I will say I'm going to play R-type games next just because of the legacy skill effect where they all play the same way, and my brain is so primed for R-type right now, I just want to play more R-type. So I like to do my games in batches where if I do a cave clear, I'll do like 3 other cave clears. If I do an R-type, I want to do a couple of R-type clears because the movement is very similar in all those games. Anyway, Wes112, I was watching him play Ikaruga with this boss that, you know, Ikaruga unfortunately was my first shmup before I really understood the genre. It's a beautiful, great game, but it's really hard for a beginner, and it kind of breaks the rules with the polarity system. I should have started with Space Megaforce, but I watched Wes112 playing, and he just had he films his physical inputs. He has a camera on his hands as he plays, and just watching him do these like really pretty staircase movements, taking out the wheel boss, and I think it's like the 3rd stage. Watching him do these perfect little movements, I was like, that precision was just so cool. It was so precise that I could just see that there was very little gap between that man's brain and what he wanted to happen on his screen. That I said, you know what? He uses a really funky, in my opinion, well, it's not funky. He uses like a fighter technique where his 3 fingers on his left hand do the side and down inputs, and his right thumb does the up movements, because that's like a fighting game thing. It's a hitbox fighting game thing where your right thumb is just a jump button. So he just got used to that feeling like an up for him. I can't do that. I mean, I could. I would just have to spend a lot of time learning it. So I just settled on using the arrow keys. But technically what he's doing is the most efficient physical input method from what I can tell, because he has 1 finger on every single potential direction he can press. So there's no lag. He doesn't have to like move a thumb up and down. He has something there primed and ready to press it. Which again, I know that's very minor, but when you add minor optimizations up to your input levels, they give you a cumulative effect of being a snappier, more responsive player. Okay. So don't go, really quick, don't go all the way to the edge of the screen at this juncture, because there's actually an enemy that I kill off screen here. So when you catch your force pod, don't touch the screen. And as soon as you take these guys out, stop shooting, because the game has a kind of cool item trap here where there's a bunch of crap on the screen. It's those little pod guys that give you power-ups. And one is going to show up on the screen here momentarily that has a speed power-up. You don't want that speed power-up. Or maybe you do. But good God, if you decide you want speed power-ups, you want 2 instead of just 1 like I do, you better learn that from the get, because this next boss is the hardest part of the game. It's the scariest part of the game. And if you suddenly have to adjust to having an extra speed input, I've done it, but ooh, baby, it's a bad time. Okay. This boss is named Rios, and he is a son of a bitch. The reason why he is so tricky is he's going to fire some various patterns at me. A couple of the patterns are these lasers that come out extremely fast. And then there's these little gunners here. These fire out missiles, and they scroll up and down as you're trying to avoid these little land areas to not hit them and die. And the patterns, the missiles can come out at random. So the way that you dodge in one way and one run through will not necessarily be the way that you dodge in a different playthrough. Mind you, we are at stage 5 of 7, second loop. So at this point, if you're going for a 2-all, you are emotionally in. You want this 2-all. You do not want to die here. It is a bummer to die here. Guys, I tried so hard to find some janky, even in the arcade version, which is notorious, you can speed kill him, I'm pretty sure, on both loops. You cannot do that in this version. You just have to get good. I tried so hard to find a way to optimize this boss, either with charge shots, with point blanking him, using my force pod to do extra damage, or maybe seeing if I could just hide at the top of the screen the whole time. I tried shooting my force pod behind him so that would deal damage and take him out quickly. None of it worked. If it works, please, if there is a big brain person out there that is smarter and better than me, please share your knowledge, figure it out, because I did my best and I couldn't do it. I would love to see somebody further optimize this boss, because otherwise the only thing that you can do is get good and dodge. So it's rough. At least the one thing you can do early on here is when this circle starts to get hit the edge of the screen here, that's when you want to start charging. I've experimented with different positions relative to this block here about where to shoot your fully charged up power shot, and I found that when I shot him like with my force pod like right here, I felt like I consistently had to fight him for longer, that it didn't do as much damage. And I think the reason is because, as you'll see in a second, you can see behind him, and I would notice the sprite of my power shot. A lot of it would be absorbed, but a lot of it would show up behind him. So I think that part that you could see behind him was not dealing damage. So if you line up like the middle of your ship kind of more closer to like this edge here, I feel like that would consistently do a little bit more damage based on my practice runs. Another thing I have to point out too, this is a good meta strategy when using save states, right? And why you have to be careful using save states. Because let's say you save state this boss once and you memorize it really good and you're no longer scared of him. If you don't realize that a boss or a section of a level is random, you are going to have a big sad, because if you get your muscle memory hard set on one particular way of doing it in a save state, you might not get that same RNG when you go to do your actual run and be completely screwed. So what I would recommend doing is whenever you find a part like this that is tricky and random, what you want to do is collect like at least like 3 to 6 save states where it's a little bit different every time. And when you practice it, what I would do is I would do save state 1, beat it, save state 2, beat it, and then let's say I die on my third save state with this boss. I would practice that one and I would get it correct without dying 3 times in a row. Then I would reset, go back to save state 1, and just beat them back to back, doing it differently each time, so that you have this meta move set where no matter what it throws at you, you are at least somewhat better to anticipate and deal with whatever it throws at you. So again, I get my charge shot where I described it a moment earlier. I hang out to the back of the screen, and as we move through, what you want to do is you're always hugging the walls, because those are generally safe from those like really fast spread shots that come out. If you're just like chilling like here, for example, there's a good chance that you'll get hit from them, and it's like super annoying. So when I come down here even, what you'll see me do is the top of my ship is going to be lined up here. Watch. Lined up there. And then this is the moment of truth as I think of it. You got to, if you're using my strategy, you got to be careful because this is going to give you a missile. You do not want to hit that. That's why I always, for this next section of land that's going to appear, I always go underneath it. And this is where the randomness comes into play. So you can see he shot pretty high. I actually got some pretty good luck on this run. But he shoots like 2 to 4 missile patterns. And again, they can be anywhere. They can be down here. They can be all the way up here. The worst pattern by far is like these guns will be like pretty narrowed in as much as they can go. And he'll shoot 2 in a row, which is very difficult to anticipate because what you essentially have to do is it's like 3 steps. The first step is you need to be just below this box that just went away and make sure that you just tap dodge a little bit so that this doesn't kill you. The hitboxes of these spread shots are a little bit bigger than they seem. So you have to dodge this while also immediately being prepared for a missile pattern. So it's 1, 2, you dodge a missile pattern, you get a little bit low, but then God, it's hard to even explain. So you dodge this, you dodge a missile. You have to be wary of this one because when you position yourself lower, this can potentially hit you. So you have to go back up, but not too far back up that this center pattern hits you. I hope that made some sense. It's kind of, sometimes you just have to play a shmup before you can even absorb the information you're getting, whether you're listening to somebody describe it or watching it yourself. But yeah, 1, 2 go down, then go back up. So it's a 3-step process. Let me see if I can slow that down at least a little bit. Get my controls here. Okay. God, how long has this been going? Oh, Jesus Christ, I don't even know. Playback. Oop. Speed. Let's go to slower fine, I think. Okay. And gotta back up a little bit more. Get to the moment of truth here. Come on. Okay. So this is the moment of truth section. So we avoid that. Ah, damn it. I'm just going to start here. So we're coming up to the moment of truth. We're hugging the land. We're avoiding that missile. Line yourself up at the bottom. Then you got to go down because they might shoot you head on. And then you got to go a little bit back up. So you have to kind of just like, basically what you're really trying to do is like wiggle in like a very, this whole middle part is just not really safe. You only want to stay there for a split second because there's always those spread shots shooting out rapid fast, and you can't go down too far because there's also that angled spread shot. Yet the missiles can come anywhere in here, so you just have to like tap dodge very precisely to just miss it the best that you can. There is one more strategy that I could never get consistently that I'll talk about briefly. I don't know how viable it is. For some reason, I could only get it to work on the pro loop, not the hard loop, which is weird. But sometimes, if you're back against the wall, let me rewind a little bit here. If you're back against the wall like this, and you rapidly press a back button when you're already back to the wall, your pod kind of does this motion where it flares out as you move back. And if you get it to do that motion as a missile is hitting the pod and you're rapidly mashing back a back input, sometimes, even if the missiles were head on, I could actually take out both missiles before they killed my ship, which is pretty cool. But again, I could only get it to work maybe 50 to 60% of the time. And for me, I ultimately found that it was easier to just go with my dodging strategy. Another thing you could do that I didn't necessarily utilize as much because it just kind of turned into a muscle memory thing for me is keep in mind too, again, what we talked about with these static backgrounds. Maybe this is like a safe lane. I don't know. But keep in mind you can sometimes use background objects to help you align your ship really quick on the fly to kind of figure out where it is safe to be. All right, let's get back to normal speed here. Okay. At this point of the game, we are now coming upon the two hardest levels. That's a moment of truth, but these two stages are just a moment of truth. Oh my god. Most of my runs literally became a matter of could I get it from that boss and these two stages to the end. I had oh my god, maybe 30 attempts at least. 35 minutes at this, 30 to 35 minutes at this point. So many attempts where I would either die on that boss or die somewhere in these next two stages. I think this stage is the hardest stage in the game. The final stage is scary, but it's at least very consistent. And getting the choreography down for this stage was just a motherfucker. Like, it was just brutal. Every time I got to this stage, I would literally feel my heart rate go up like 20 beats per minute. I'm not even kidding. Like, the fear would set in, my hands would get sweaty, like I would start having like an anxiety response. It was brutal. Funny enough, just like a personal, like little woo metaphysical caveat, when I actually got my clear, my wife briefly, she was going to go out to run an errand, so she just came like next to me really quick. It's so cheesy, but I swear to God, this is true. And she just kissed me on the forehead and just like said goodbye. And it was right when I was starting this level off. So I really feel like I told her, like, babe, you gave me like the kiss of life. Like, I think like on some like metaphysical level that just like granted me like the love I needed to be patient with myself and just calm me down a little bit to finally get this clear. So freaking cheesy, but that's just how it went down, man. I'm not even kidding. So pretty straightforward at the start. There's just a lot of crap coming at you, and you're just weaving, you're just chilling, and you're just killing it all. So, also just a bop of a track, dude. Like, oh, it's so good. I love the bass lines in some of these tracks, man. All right, we got to talk about this. This is where the level really starts in earnest. So before we get to the conveyor belt of death, we have to, of course, fight the elevator of death. I think I'm actually just gonna go back and play. That was my plan. I'm gonna play Brain Temple's entire level of this just because it is so challenging. I want you guys to have a second perspective. So what you're gonna do back here is you have this conveyor belt of popcorn, Zacco, whatever they're called, coming down here, and you have the conveyor belt coming here, and everything is trying to snipe you. So basically, all you're gonna do for the first part is move diagonal and just be really aggressive and fast and take out everything before it can kill you and use your force pod to catch the bullets so that you're positioned for the second part. So I'm just doing some nice clean diagonal inputs. I'm clearing everything before it can get me. This is where you want to be before you get to the second part. You don't want to start up here. You're going to move up here eventually, but before you do, you really want your force pod to be like starting to be crushed by like, or just clip this part of the terrain. Because if you don't, if you go up too early, a guy will sneak out here and you'll potentially have to dodge, or you'll get sniped before you can complete this section. So what you're going to do is wait until it starts to clip your force pod and you know it's safe. There will be a guy that's coming out, but if you time it correctly, he will not get a bullet off at you. And when you move up, keep in mind, there's going to be guys that start sniping you from the far right of the screen. So what you have to do is you want to move up here really quick and direct the bullets to be coming up here so that you have the space and the timing to tap dodge and do the final part here. So go up nice and high. So I don't get super high, but you got the idea, like pretty much about here. And then you're going to tap dodge. You need your option here to take this guy out fairly quickly. If you don't get him taken out quickly enough, he can snipe you through this platform and kill you. It has happened to me. It can happen to you, and it's just awful. So you need to be careful. And again, this is why you want, like, I'm so sorry I keep rambling and saying the same crap, but this is why you need precision with your tap dodging, because you need that option, that little satellite there to kill him. And you got to be careful too that you don't hit it with your ship, which I've also done. You don't want to hit this one or this one. You just got to keep it right nice tight in there. Because I'm nervous when I play this section a lot, I'll get too tense, and unfortunately I'll hit one of these sections and end my run. So you just got to stay cool. What's nice about, again, there's no enemies here because I'm using the ground blue missile, and when that missile hits the ground, it'll go straight, and if it comes to a curve like this, it'll actually curve downward. So you didn't see it, but my blue missile actually went down and killed a couple of enemies that would have been spawning on these elevators. If you decide to go with an alternate strategy, like I'm going to play Brain Temple's level, she uses the red missiles. So because of that, there will be Zako that you have to contend with coming up the elevator here. And when that happens, what she ends up doing is dodging in her playthrough, but it's way easier. It's less risky. This is actually a temporary safe spot. You just camp out here for a moment, and that would be how I always used to do it. But I stopped doing it because I just didn't need to the way I did it. As long as you just kind of stay a little bit more forward, obviously not so far forward that this debris hits you, you'll see an enemy start to appear, but it will not fire as long as you're positioned forward on the screen. There you go. You'll have a much worse shoot area coming up right after the conveyor belt of death that we're dealing with. So what I like to do is, just kind of time it out. And when you do go down, I always go down to get out of it at like a diagonal, just so that if there is one that's falling on top of you, it'll be falling on top of your satellite, which will deal enough damage that if your timing is a little bit off, a lot of the times this will kill the piece of debris that would have fallen on top of you. So you want to be going down as you move out of it. Another thing I kill off screen here that you won't see is I keep my satellite aligned with the ceiling here because there's a gun turret that we're going to kill. If you watch the side of the screen right here, you'll see a little flash when I kill it. Right there. Okay, another quick little side. This whole thing is just rambles, so who even cares at this point? Whatever I find you do a pod switch in this game, and I think probably in most R-type games, there's an efficient way to do it. So when you are trying to reconnect to the front or the back with your force pod, excuse me, you always want to do it. Well, not always, but a lot of the time, if you can, you want to do it to the edge of the screen rather than shooting it across the screen, so you're not vulnerable for as long as you're moving toward the force pod. And instead of, like, let's say I want to go from front to back like this, you don't want to shoot it and move like way up here more than you need to, and then move way down here, and then try to like plug it in. Like you're plugging a socket into a wall, right? Where you're going, you think you have to like connect the butt of your ship like perfectly in line. You can do it much, much easier if, as long as like the center of your ship is just a little bit farther forward, you can just come straight down on it vertically. You don't have to go around it. Like this is, some of you are probably like, well, yeah, duh, dude. But that's what I did when I was first learning to play R-type games. I moved more than I needed to, which is very, very important when you're learning shmups in general. Is you want to minimize movement as much as possible. Whether that's dodging a bullet, you don't want to over dodge, or whether you're trying to reconnect a force pod, you don't want to over move, over dodge. You want to get your movements as tight and clean as you can get them. So again, I want to rewind it. I come down on top of it in order to make that switch. Shoot it on top of it. You don't have to go all the way around and like plug it in. You're going to move on top of it or below it, whatever the case may be. All right. So we're coming upon another moment of truth. We're coming upon what I refer to as the conveyor belt of death. Here it is for all to see. For this first part, I time it using an enemy that's going to spawn over here. It is, I believe it's a satellite power-up, yeah, so it's okay to catch it. But I use the way it moves to time when I do my next movement. So there's going to be a little pod power-up guy that jumps, and he jumps, and then he jumps up. The moment he jumps up, what I do is I just ram the side of the screen, because there's not a wall here, you're safe to do that, and then I go straight up. So it looks like this. He jumps down, he jumps up, and then I move kind of with him, so that as soon as he starts to jump up, I go boom, boom at a 90-degree angle. And then I get into position here. This is about where you want to be. This is one of the most dangerous part of the games. This is a safe spot that I looped incessantly until I got it just right. Because if your pod is too low, I like to shoot my force pod out to take this turret out. Brain Temple, funny enough, she just moves through it to do it, which, you know, you can pick and choose whatever you find easier. But I like to shoot my force pod here to take this turret out. One thing, however, we do have to keep in mind is the pieces of debris that are going to come and fall down. So there are different pieces of debris that will be coming on the screen here. This piece, it's like flashing right now because I'm hitting it with my satellite. These bigger pieces that have like these red, I think they're eyes, will tend to shoot these little popcorns at you more than the smaller yellow pieces. So I do not want to shoot my force pod until this bigger, more threatening piece has been disposed of. So I wait for it, and then at the second, you can actually use the shooting of the force pod to take it out like I do there, but the second that one is passed, that's when you want to, when it's safer, and of course when this is out, to move up here for the next part. Another thing I would do, when the timing would be different, say if it wasn't one of those big green ones with red eyes, when it was one of these pieces, I think these do shoot, but they never gave me trouble at this part. A lot of the times when I'd be at this part where this turret is gone and one of these things is falling, I would just let the bullets take care of it, and I would just hover and wait here for a second before connecting and moving on. Funny enough, and again, this is why I think my wife's kiss of life saved me. Before moving in, you have to like do a little dodge if this thing gets a shot off in your direction. And normally I'm able to do it much cleaner here. This time it almost kills me, but this was just destined to be my run, so that even though it's kind of like sloppy, I get it. Like, check this out. Look at that! I want to play that again. It's so close to my shift. I got to slow-mo that. I'm sorry. I have to slow-mo that. It literally like grazes the top of my ship. And again, that is why I am OCD and obsessive about my input methods, because you need as little separation between your brain and your physical reflexes and what happens on the screen as much as possible. So let's get the slow-mo cam here. Oh, it's just so clean. One more time, man. I'm giving myself this. One more time. I don't know how to make it slower, but it's just... Oh, so clutch, dude. Alright, go ahead. There we go. Right on top of it. Dude, pixels. Bro, pixels, and I would have been dead there. Pixels. Oh my god. Okay. Oof, that gives me like a physiological reaction just watching it. Good god. All right. Okay. Got to talk about this part here because it is just whoo. What do I do here? So first of course, we're gonna reconnect our pod to the front, and then what we do is we tuck it into this corner. So we are gonna have to contend. God, this part is so brutal, dude. With three corners of the screen. We're going to have Zako jumping down from here, off screen, mind you. They're going to jump off screen and jump into the screen and shoot shots at us. We're going to have Flying Zako Popcorn come up here and take shots at us. And we're going to have debris that's floating, that's going up the conveyor belt here, some of which will also take shots at us. Freaking nuts! So how do you cover 3 parts of the screen at once with all sides sniping at you? Insane. Pure insanity. And again, arcade difficult. This level is not an R-Type 2. This is only crap that you have to deal with super duper, they should call it, R-Type. So what I have seen most players do is a strategy that I do not do, which is they keep the force pod on the back of the ship and they'll sort of just move back and forth. They don't really have to worry about this just because as they're moving up and down to take out the top and bottom of the screen, their ship is firing backwards, so it just kills. It's these guys, these little fuckers. It'll just take them out as they move it, and they only have to focus on these two here. My lack of skill, my issue with that was that my movement would sometimes just not be good, and I would get sniped either from above or below the stuff that comes on the screen. So this is what I did. I keep my force pod in the center, and I move back. Now I keep a gap like this because if you just chill in the corner, it's not safe. When these guys initially jump on the screen, they will kill you. It's especially egregious on this pro loop because they're strong enough that sadly, even though your option will hit them, they can jump through it and hit your ship. It won't just vaporize them right away, even though it's a frickin' popcorn enemy. So you have to wait for the first one to jump on screen, then you can move back, and you'll be positioned enough because this is constantly going lower that as they jump up, they will not kill you because they won't come high enough to get the ship's hitbox. So that's what's going on back here. Is I'm just going to tap dodge down and take all of these guys out that are jumping from off screen with my satellite, and I'm going to use my force pod to contend with everything. It's got great coverage, right? It's killing all this stuff with its diagonal shots. It's doing damage down here, and on top of that we have the vertical stuff, so it's doing extra damage there. Now, the reason I have made it a point throughout this video that I, for my strategy, have to have the blue missiles that hit the ground is because you see this right here? This is doing additional damage to the debris that comes up along the conveyor belt. If you use if you've got red homing missiles, this ain't gonna work. Or it might, but it'll be a lot harder because the enemies that come up here are pretty beefy. So you need, in addition to your detached force pod doing a little bit of shooting here, you need this splash damage from the blue ground missiles to take them out. So that's what's happening here, and let's take a look how it goes. Okay, so that was a successful run. That was pretty much as clean as I can get it. you do see, it's incredible that that's only like a couple of seconds too, for the amount of time that it takes to get these strats, dude. It's just wild. Okay. One point I want to make is, you do see I kind of came forward to dodge. I'm embarrassed to say that sometimes I would panic because stray bullets regularly get through. You just have to be careful. I hate to say I did this many times. Don't freak out and move too quickly, or you can either hit the wall and die, or like I said, even though you have this satellite doing damage to these Zako beneath you, if you're at the corner of the screen and a bullet's coming here and you dodge below, you will get killed by hitting these. So what you kind of have to do is just like move forward at sort of like an angle, depending on where you're positioned, and sort of dodge them through that way. Yeah. So let's look at that again. So I move forward to dodge. Or in that case, I could just tell it wasn't going to hit me. Where's that stray bullet? There it is. I move forward. I probably didn't even have to do that, to be honest, but I did. So now to get out of here, there might be a little bit of randomness here because I got lucky on this run. Sometimes at this point when I move and I get to this next part of the screen, there would still be a little son of a bitch Zako here that would be sniping at me from across the screen, and you just kind of have to move up and down to avoid it. But in this case, what I do is I like to start kind of higher up on the screen, and again, you want to do just a clean diagonal down, and you kind of, it's one of those things where you have to practice. Oftentimes when I would do a diagonal movement down here, I would get crushed by a piece of falling debris. So what you can do, if you think you're not going to make it, and one of these shoots is going to kill you, you can just kind of like keep your ship here and tap back so you don't hit it head on, and just move up and just blast it a little bit so it's clear, and then do a diagonal movement from there. But in this case, my timing was just really tight, and I was able to just do one fell swoop. I was able to do one diagonal movement across the whole screen. Like so. And you do see, like, I don't know, let's see, something tried to snipe me back there. Let's see what that was. I'm not sure if that was a debris. I think it was a piece of debris. Yeah, just like I said, those green debris with the eyes tend to have a higher firing rate than these yellow pieces, so that is very important to know. And you still gotta, there's a couple popcorn enemies, but at this point you're happy because you've pretty much made it. You just want to make sure that you hit the top, that you get to the top of the ceiling, and you just, after you sit here for a second, it'll be clear, and then you can swoop down and move into the final part here. And then just take these guys out with your satellite shots, and you just have to do an easy force pod switch, and then just take this guy out with your rear fire, and you are good. I like to do circles like this on like the back of, just to see how tight I can get it, just like a little mini game for myself. I don't know, I just do things like that. And again, like, I want to make a point, like, why I love keyboards so much. Like, doing this movement where I try to just do my ship perfectly around it. I love doing things like that in shmups whenever I have a moment of dead air, just as like a muscle memory test to see how precise I can do, how precise I can use my given input method, whether that's a D-pad or a lever. And again, I'm gonna say it again, I love my Hall Effect keyboard because I can just get so tight, like watch this. So tight on that, bro. Whereas sometimes if I would use a D-pad, like, instead of like hugging these lines that make up the square, I would end up like up here. So it would kind of look, I'll use the mouse if I can get it precise enough. It would kind of look like this, and then I'd get in the next one, then I'd go down. You know what I mean? I just couldn't get it as tight as I wanted to. That's a good little litmus test you can use to see how tight you're using one of your given input methods. Okay. This is, you know what, I'm going to say it. This is my favorite boss. This boss, unlike Rio's, where it feels janky and it's too random, this boss is tough but fair. It's random, but as long as you keep a couple of strategies in mind, it is fair. I actually really enjoy this boss. I think it's a cool boss. I think it's well designed. Looking at my notes here, apparently it is called Recycler. But I need to talk, right? You have to get into position really fast here immediately, or it'll kill you because there's a lot going on. So before this boss even appears on the screen, what you're going to do is just go straight up. And as soon as you start to see the sprites of the boss appearing on the screen, you're going to move right. And I'm trying to remember, it's muscle memory, it's hard to describe it, but I'm pretty sure what I do is as the boss will take a shot at you, you want to swoop down, and then as you move back, you swoop up and you hug the top of the screen. I actually do it as a diagonal input, so I'm pressing up and left on my keyboard. So it's going to look like this, where I move to the right at the top, I dodge a bullet, I swoop up, and then I move back into position. Let's see what that looks like. So as you can see, like, if you didn't catch it, pay attention to this turret. It shoots up fast as you cross over. And I'm trying to remember, some of these steps I take for granted just because I've been doing so for so long. The reason you don't want to come at from the bottom, I think, is because you need to take out this gunner and this side gunner. These are both gunners, these right here. You need to take these out as soon as possible in order to make a safe-ish spot work on the side of this screen. So the side of this screen is where you're going to be for the majority of this fight. This corner is also very pivotal. But in order to do it, you first need to position yourself using that crazy swoop I just described. And then you need to you want it ideally to be clipping on this part right here. So you can take out this one too, but especially this one as soon as possible. So you need to just, again, clip it and point blank it as much as possible before you and the boss move over into this corner here. So let's see what that looks like. Okay. So again, this boss's movements are random. Sometimes when you're trying to clip it really aggressively like I described, it'll move up and sometimes it'll move down. You don't know. Again, this is why you might want to load up a couple of save states to like practice different behaviors that this recycler boss will do. However, sometimes as soon as you start shooting it in that early beginning stage, it'll go right up to this corner. And if this gunner, I've taken it out now, it's this one over here. If this gunner has not been taken out, it will shoot a shot on top of your ship. So that's why I call it a safe-ish spot. It will kill you. So you need to take that out as quickly as possible so it doesn't kill you when you're in the corner here. Okay, so now we are positioned to kill all three of these segments and go on to the final boss. We've taken out both the side gunner and this top rotating gunner on this guy's left head. This segment here is just not a threat. We don't even care about it. We'll get to it when we get to it. It almost never comes all the way to the left side of the screen. Its gunners are pointless since we can just do damage to its eye here. So this one you can pretty much literally just ignore. You just need to focus first on the gunners, then taking this whole segment out. Then you need to focus on this guy. And actually, as you're taking this one out, after you've gotten the two side guns out, you need to be very, very mindful of these suckers here. The reason that you cannot stay complacent in this corner is because when this thing moves down, it can occasionally get angled shots from this gunner that you didn't kill, and that can shoot you in the corner. So you kind of want to move down with it. But as you move down with it, you have to keep in mind that this thing is also going to shoot at you. What's dangerous, so that was very good that we were able to take that one out so quickly. And again, I always take that segment out first just because those little gunners at the side of its head are so dangerous, and they fire at very sharp angles and can sometimes get you as you try to move around. These blue shots are very dangerous because they're fast enough that they're scary and you really want to swoop past it quick, but they're slow enough that what happens to me sometimes is if I don't wait long enough, what'll happen is I'll clip just the little tippy tip right there, right before it goes completely off screen, and it'll kill me. In fact, oh, I don't remember which one I saved, but that actually happened to me. The run before this one is just the tip of this one. I moved back up the screen a little too fast. So whenever I move past this boss, I always make it a point to move well past these gunners because they are very, very dangerous. And as I try to shoot these gunners, I actually try to use the fire from my options from these guys to take it out so that I never have to get directly in front of it. Usually, again, this is a safe-ish wall. Usually this never will move all the way to the left of the screen. But when it does, after you take these gunners out, you're still not completely safe. Whenever this thing is like... So I'll just describe it in a second, actually. Let's just watch. So take these gunners out using your force shots. You can even use your missiles if you can angle it in there properly. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. You have to let it get so close that it'll actually clip through properly. I refuse to leave this wall and be more aggressive here, just because they shoot debris and they suck debris up, and it's very innocuous. It's really not too dangerous at this point. But, bro, you have spent so much time trying to get to this point in a run that I refuse to do anything that looks cool or makes this process go faster. I'm playing it safe, so I'm hugging this wall, and as it moves close to me, I'm very careful. You'll see I keep my fire and my ship positioned here along with it because it will sometimes move into the wall. And it won't crush you if you're in this little space here, but sometimes if this thing is all the way on the wall and your ship is on the way on the wall and you think you're safe, when it spits debris, I believe what happens, this has killed me twice, I'm not 100% sure, but if this is against the wall and you're against the wall behind it, when it spits out some of that debris, some of that will spawn on top of your ship and that'll kill you. So you're not in the clear even yet. When you're shooting it, you want to make sure that you just stay aligned with the center part here after you take out its guns. There we go. So now we're moving on to the final stage. Right there. So I talk a lot about mitigating risks through this run, mitigating risk through this run, and my strategies to do so. And there's a safer spot even right there when I just took out that harmless little snake, where I would grab my force pod, I would wait at the bottom, and I would just let that thing move off screen. And that's safer. That's safer than quickly moving up and point blanking it. It gets close, but you'll point blank it every time. But it scared me how close it would get. And what I did here was like a weird psychological metagame thing where I said to myself, Blazing Lasers 69, you know that if you move in that corner, you'll be safe. You have to sometimes, even if it's scary, you have to trust your routing. You can't second guess yourself. Like, you have to know that if you've labbed something in save states that it's going to work. So even though that move is slightly riskier than just camping down here for that first enemy that spawned on screen, I did that to instill confidence in myself, because this is the last level. It's the last level of a 45-minute loop, 45-minute clear rather, to all. It's scary. So like I did that to just like reassure myself, like this is a riskier move, but it's going to work. My routes will work. I can do this. I did that purely for a psychological boost. And, you know, as scary as this level gets, the first half of it is actually super chill. As long as you're powered up, you literally just get to just relax in this corner. And again, this is where I would often take my coffee breaks. I would check my phone for text messages. And I would just kind of honestly chill for quite a bit here. Like, as you can see, it's pretty much just dead air. Just more dead air. So once I see that Just a second ago, we saw that missile power up. Again, I don't... If I get it here, it's actually okay. It's not... It doesn't really matter. The missiles are kind of inconsequential to this part. I think the blue is a little bit better for what comes ahead, but it doesn't really matter. But once I see that missile, that's my cue to move in position for these yellow guys that come on screen that you just have to memorize. Not these snakes. I'll show you in a second. According to the wiki, they are called Dogras or Dogras. I'm not really sure, but the rest of what you're going to see here is just pure memo. And again, it just starts in this position here. So here come the Dogras, or Dogras, or yellow guys, whatever the hell you want to call them. A couple notes about these fellas. They slow down the moment you start to shoot them, which is relevant information, and they snipe. Their behavior is a little bit different from enemy to enemy. There's a couple you really have to keep your eyes on because they can snipe you very quickly. But as long as you position yourself consistently, you will always avoid their snipes, and I can hopefully help you do that. But again, if you shoot them, they will slow down, which is relevant because, like, if you need to move somewhere and they're in the way, you can accidentally collide into them, which has happened to me before. They will always shoot... I think when they come on screen, each one will only typically shoot one shot, which is good to know too. So if one shoots from like a certain angle, that one is quote unquote safe to like move past, for example. If you know for a fact, or move to it like past it, if you know that it's already given off its one shot. They're like bees. They sting you once and then they're done. They can shoot from 8 directions, either cardinal directions, horizontally, vertically, and they will shoot from 8 ways. They'll shoot at angles as well, but they don't always shoot from like a super sharp angle, for example. So it gets to a point where I will line myself. It's the safest way to line yourself up with these sometimes is like exactly kitty corner, like here. If you're up here more, where this like little explosion is, it can snipe you there. But if you're like running just perpendicular to it, usually their angled shots will not hit you. What'll happen is it'll just shoot a front shot, and you're just safe because you're just above it. And again, my positioning here is just monkey see, monkey do. You just memorize this. But that's a good example of what I'm talking about. They shoot one shot. They shoot them somewhat consistently. So the first enemy that comes out from below me, I've just got that memoed, and I just take it out with my option here. The second one likes to pop out shots at sort of different random variables. So I'm actually watching the second one below here before it shoots its shot to just kind of anticipate when to dodge. So I take it out with my option. I'm watching that little sucker. Easy. Move past it. The next section here, I move back and forth on the screen and dodge everything pretty much the same way every time I practice it. That makes it, like, honestly, this level doesn't scare me too much anymore. And I think I practiced it. I probably did practice it the second most, but I didn't have to practice this level as much as I practiced the Conveyor Belt of Death. It doesn't really scare me that much anymore. So that's what's cool about this level. Yes, there's a lot of like raw memo as in terms of just saying like where things come out at the screen, but once you get it down, like it's not too bad. So yeah, I start back here, I move back, I go forward, and I move back. I do 2 taps up, just move forward again. For this last pattern here, it's probably the trickiest patterns of these intro parts before the mob kind of comes. I'll point it out because it's hard to get it exactly, but there's going to be like these little bombs scrolling on the screen like we had at the first level, which is a cool touch. I love when game developers take like bosses or enemies from the first level and throw them in the last level, because thematically that's a way of showing you how far you've come. Just a cool little side note there. But we're going to have these bombs on the screen, and I use one of those like rows of bombs to line up my force pod and position myself on the screen here in just a moment. I think right here. Yep. So I line it up with my force pod is right here, and then these guys are going to do a crisscross. So all I do is I move back between the crisscross, back here, and then I'm going to kill one with my with this guy again. Let's see how that looks. Easy. And of course, you know, this guy's going to be a jerk and snipe you. I'm just used to that from practice. The next part I'm going to do, there's going to be two guys that spawn out from here, so I can't be too comfortable. I'm simply going to move down and around these two guys. And as I stay forward so that these two guys that spawn, when they do try to snipe me, their bullets will be out here. I don't like to do it against the wall. I would originally just like position myself here for these two that spawn because I could kill one with my option. But what would happen sometimes is that the top one would occasionally shoot me and snipe me from there. So I like to move forward now, let their shots come way up, like out here, and then move up and kill them. So that looks like this. There you go. So now we're positioned for the final part, because the boss is just a safe spot. So this is the final part of the game. And what's going to happen is we're going to have sort of sparser sniper enemies come out here, and we're going to have a mob of enemies come out here. The way I handle it is as the mob comes out, they're moving forward and their bullets are moving forward toward me. And all I really do is just kind of eyeball it and tap forward slowly. You don't want to move too forward quickly, or one of these guys that come, like, they kind of lag in the back, gets a very fast, like if I'm here and he's lagging behind here, he can snipe me. So you just tap forward calmly through like this mass of bullets that's about to appear. And let's just see what that looks like. So let's just tapping. I'm just tapping through. Easy. And as I'm moving through, I also have to keep in mind these guys, there's going to be a bunch of guys that come from behind. So what I'm going to do is I'm slowly going to position myself like forward and also lower, so that eventually I'll get to the point where I'm perpendicular to these guys. Like I'm like right beside them. I'm just further ahead so that they can't snipe me from behind. I move into that position. This is what I'm talking about. So I've got him. I'm not scared of him. These guys already shot their shot. I'm not scared of them. And then this sucker, you know, if I was up here, he would be so dangerous. He would kill. He's killed me before. If you try to get around these guys that come from behind any other way, it's very dangerous. But because I'm perpendicular to this one, to this lane here, if you will, all he can do is shoot forward one time, and then it's just a matter of getting around him. Easy. No other shots. And then, you know, I know that this guy's going to shoot forward. It is fast and scary, but I know it's there, so I just don't stop. I just move straight through. And then for this last part here, it's just, you're just going to move back and forth. There's just going to be a few more Dogras that come out here. There's going to be these bombs are coming out from the bottom. So you just want to move back and forth and make sure you're killing everything and vaporizing it as quickly as you can with your powerful helix shot. And then there's a snake that comes out here as well, which you want to kill. And you just got to be careful with the last snake that comes out here, not to move forward, because when you kill them, they explode, and all of their segments kind of explode down their body. So if you move forward as it's exploding, it can still kill you. It can still activate your hitbox. So you just got to be very conscientious. It gets really tight as the screen kind of closes in, but you just move back and forth. And there's one more Dogra that comes from behind. And all I really do for the last sniper that comes from behind is I call it staircasing, where instead of just using a diagonal input, I make these really fine down and left movements to just like zigzag down, and that seems to activate his shot like when he appears relatively quickly on the screen and makes it easy to avoid. So again, moving back and forth, keeping this sniper that's going to appear behind in mind. Let's see what that looks like. And that's it. That is the game. Looking at my notes here, seeing if I have any final notes. I think I pretty much got through it all, so... Oh man, it's been quite a journey describing every little piece of nuance and all of my thoughts in this game. Safe spot really quick. All you need to do, I don't have to pause it. All you need to do is move into this corner here, and move into this corner here and have your shots. Just hold down the fire button. But to make this safe spot work, and again, I'm the only person, like, I know it sounds like arrogant, but I'm so happy with I'm so pleased with myself for like finding this safe spot. This safe spot, it's cool because it's a throwback to the first game. This safe spot only works if you hold back on the screen so that your option is held forward. Because if you don't do that, some of these random missiles can actually squeeze in between your option and your force pod's hitbox and kill you, rendering this safe spot not a safe spot. But if you hold forward and you shoot, you're good. That's all. It works on any loop, because this is the pro loop. They only get easier from here. And I know it works for the hard loop, so I'm 99% sure that this spot will work on this womb boss on any loop that you attempt. And also you want to keep shooting because there are missiles that come out here. And again, because it's the pro loop, they are so strong that they can actually fly through your force pod if you're not shooting and hit your ship and kill you. So that's it. Just get in the corner, hold back against the screen, hold down the fire button, and just enjoy your score going up, and you have the clear. That's it, guys. So I just realized I really hope I set OBS to capture my mouse, because I've been using it as a pointer all this time. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to go back and add it in for all this crap that I've been talking about. This was really rough. I know it's kind of sloppy, and I just kind of rambled through so much of this, but I like watching videos like this myself. I like hearing other players ramble, and you know, I watch them on my lunches at work, and I'll just watch them in like parts. I don't necessarily watch them all at once. But especially if I'm like trying to like learn a game, to see somebody talk through it like this, I find it pretty helpful. So honestly, if only like one person listens to this, I'll have considered doing this commentary worthwhile, just because I love these games. They keep me so entertained and happy, and R-Type is just so freaking cool, dude. It's just so freaking cool. They're hardcore, they're memorizers, embrace it, love it, grind with it. Oh, it's just so good. So I'm just gonna wait for this guy to explode. One final note that is so sad. I guess it was just a weird. The ROM is haunted and was messing with me. The only other sound glitch I had during this run, I had the one I talked about on the first loop that I only started the pro loop, but I had a sound glitch here where the end credits have no music. So lame, because it does that cool like da da da. It does that cool like stage 1 theme from the first game in like a medley, and I was so bummed to have lost that. But that's pretty much it. It's just going to show the credits at this point and say you're the best player ever, blah blah blah. So now what I want to do, just because she does it a little bit differently, is I want to show. Let's see. I want to show Brain Temple Stage 6. I want to go back to that. Oh yeah, and I'll show this really quick too. If you don't use the save spot, this is another method you can use to kill it, is just some well-timed charged shots and clipping. This is pretty safe, but this right here, I don't like this. I don't like having to do that final dodge when there's so much on the line, when you're right at the very end. I don't like that. It's cooler, it's more honorable, you know, he didn't just camp in a corner like I did, like a coward. But I don't care, I'm a cheap bastard and I want to beat this game. But yeah, going back, because stage 6 is the hardest, I do want to showcase Brain Temple's, how they approached it. So again, they're using those homing missiles and just combing up and down the screen, nothing too crazy here. God, I love that bass line so much. So it's looking the same thing I did, where you're just, you know, I mean, this is what every clear is going to look like. You're just going diagonally back and forth, taking this stuff out, get nice and high in the screen. And then she moves through, though, which I thought was interesting. I didn't really find that necessary, and it's also an extra force pod thing. But yeah, I just did it a little bit differently. And again, so you saw the way she dodged that bullet that comes up from the elevator Zako. If you do want to approach this strategy, what I would recommend is actually just park your ship here and just tap dodge backwards so this debris doesn't kill you. But you can actually just chill here and avoid one, it's a pretty tight dodge there. Brain Temple is obviously a super skilled player, but for us mere mortals, I would recommend just hiding here for a second. Moving right through. You got your pod switch. I like what I'm seeing. Now this part here is going to be very different because I went on and on about how I shoot my force pod back. This to me is the approach that Brain Temple will take is riskier, but she has the skill to do it, unlike me. So let's give it a watch here. Not going to disconnect the force pod, just goes right back. But I could never get, I don't know, I just felt like I would always get sniped trying it that way. And same here, just keeping it attached to the back and just moving through this debris. But like, right there, I want you to pay attention. There was a shot that was so close to hitting the ship just now. And that's why I didn't like doing it this way. I was able to do it, but it just wasn't as consistent for me. Because you just never know, because they can get a diagonal shot out here, go past your pod and kill you. So I don't like that. So let's watch. Right there. Did you even see that? It's right there. So close. Oh, it's just too close for me. Too close for me. Also a tricky force pod there. Massive credit to Brain Temple doing that force pod in the middle of all that debris. I would get nervous and bungle that. Zero doubt in my mind. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end this there. God knows how long I've been rambling. I really hope my frickin' mouse shows up on the screen. Otherwise, I will have to go through, listen to it, and just put it everywhere I was talking about. Thank you so much for watching this. And I know I said it once, but I want it to be my final thoughts. Please give Hall Effects keyboards a try because they are such beautiful tools. And please, no matter what your skill level is, upload your replay with commentary because, commentary is optional. It's a lot of work, but at least upload your clears because people that are not as good at these games can, like myself, this is what I do. People that are not like Jamers and are not the best players will look at your not super plays and will pick out micro strategies that you use that are not the best, but that are easier to do. You are adding to a pool of passionate players. You're adding to a pool of data that is cool, that is valuable to people like myself, and I highly encourage you to do it. So wishing you guys all the best with your clears. Thank you so much for watching, and happy